Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. They scared, y'all. They scared. Duck sauce everywhere. All over that Philly fried rice. There's a reason that fans keep joking. Well, you know, Hood Champion is, and my partners, that Jaron Ennis is like a big plate of Philly fried rice. Everybody standing around him with duck sauce, but nobody actually wants to dig in. I know that may be funny on the surface, but underneath the joke is very real, very, very real. I'm telling you, it's an issue that's followed elite fighters throughout the boxing history. When you're too good, too risky, and not yet guaranteed mega paydays for these fighters, you become the fight that everyone publicly praises and privately avoids and puts duck sauce on. Anyone who understands boxing knows that Jaron Ennis sits right in that uncomfortable zone. Skill-wise, many believe he's already operating at or near the top of the sport, future face of boxing, pound for pound #1. He's versatile, explosive, defensively responsible, and capable of switching styles mid-fights, making adjustments, pivoting. He knows just how to do everything when he needs to up it. Matter of fact, when he gets in the fight, he doesn't even really have to do much of that. Shit's so one-sided, he just starts having fun. But now you can see he's more locked in and looking to dominate and get fighters out of there. If he can get you out in the first round, he doesn't get paid for overtime. Jaron Ennis is looking to make statements, and he has a great opportunity ahead of him on 6 June when he gets in the ring with Zayas. But all I'm saying is that kind of unpredictability makes him dangerous for anyone in or around his weight class. Duck sauce on the fried rice, for real. But here's the problem. Danger without guaranteed reward is bad business for most fighters. They ain't trying to fight him unless they're getting gazillions of dollars. Now, I give Eddie Hearn a hard time about not wanting to pay fighters to get Jaron the big fights. But, you know, I also understand Eddie Hearn as a promoter. You ain't in the business to lose money. You know what I'm saying? I understand. But pay a little extra. Put a little extra $250,000 on top. You know what I'm saying? Get him the fights he needs. But this Zayas fight is a good step in the right direction. It's actually a pretty big deal. This man could become the unified champion at 154. So people you would think would be chasing after him. But if you lose to Ennis, you don't just lose a fight. And these fighters know that. You potentially use your position, your leverage, and your future paydays. And cats, they're just not willing to risk that. But they want to go to Zuffa Boxing, which I don't think is a bad thing. But, you know, I think some of these guys are going to miss out if they don't get their ass over there right now. They want fighters. So they're going to pay you good money. But once they get bubbling and they're established, they'll still welcome you. But what do they say? Yesterday's price is not today's price. You may come over there and be more miserable than ever because you missed out on a huge opportunity to get some really good money right now. Now, Eddie Hearn problem. He knows Jaron is too good, too expensive, too risky. So he got to sort that out. That's where he gets paid the big bucks. Eddie Hearn's been vocal about how difficult it is to land big fights for Ennis. And his complaints actually line up with what we've seen play out. According to Hearn, opponents fall into 2 categories. Uno, you have fighters who simply don't want to fight. They'll praise Ennis publicly, say he's talented, say he deserves huge opportunities. But when it comes to sign a contract, the enthusiasm, that shit is adios amigos. It disappears. That's the duck sauce effect. Fighters around, they say, all right, we're circling around this dude. They're looking at him, but they ain't trying to be the one who gets served at all. Then, dose. You have fighters who are willing to fight, but only if the money's right. And they don't just want, let's say their best payday is, let's say $500,000. They don't want $1 million. They want $8 million. That shit's extreme. They price themselves out, asking for persons that don't match the commercial value of the fight. From their perspective, it makes sense. If you're going to take a high-risk fight against someone like Ennis, you want to be compensated heavily for it. I heard Keith Thurman back in the day trying to make a Crawford fight. Keith Thurman was asking for like $10 million or something. So yeah, he would have fought Crawford, but he knew what he was up against. He wanted to get paid, but everyone knows $10 million. I mean, that's shit is absurd. You know what I mean? Especially if I'm talking about guaranteed money. That's just not something that's not realistic. But from a promotional standpoint, that makes the fight difficult to justify financially when it comes to putting Boots in there against really good competition and big names. So it creates a stalemate. And that's what I think has happened with Jaron Boots Ennis up until now. And we still have to wait for the official announcement, but Ennis is ready, capable, and willing. But the business side of boxing keeps slowing everything down. Now, of course, Ortiz and them came out and having issues with De La Hoya, but even Jaron's brother, he's not buying it. He thinks they put duck sauce on the fried rice and came up with this whole saga, this whole soap opera bullshit to just duck Jaron. I don't know. All I'm telling you is nobody seems to be breaking their neck to get in the ring with him. Now, when I look at it, I have a Demetrius Andrade fear about Jaron, you know? This is where the comparison to Demetrius Andrade starts to creep in. And it's a valid concern. Andrade spent years as a highly skilled champion, couple divisions, but struggled to land the defining fights that would elevate his career. He was avoided, overlooked, stuck in a cycle where his talent was respected, but his resume didn't reflect his ability because the biggest opportunities never materialized. And when he had to go all the way up to 168, a weight class that really is where he shouldn't have been at, and fought David Benavidez, someone else that everybody avoided, especially Canelo. And what happened in that fight, but I'm just telling you, man, Andrade is a good example to see what happens when you just can't get fights. You just got to go to extreme measures to land a big name where you're disadvantaged. So the fear for Ennis is that he could follow a similar path. It's not because he lacks talent, but because the system around him doesn't reward high-risk, low-reward matchups. So if the right fights don't happen at the right time, a fighter can miss their prime window for superstardom. That's why, I got my fingers crossed, toes crossed, hot cross buns. I called it red cross. I crossed my eyes. I crossed the T. You know what I'm saying? I even crossed the goddamn street this morning. And I didn't look both ways because I'm a risk taker. And that's what these fighters should be doing, taking risks, but they won't. But hopefully, Xander Zayas and everything, it gets announced. I'm waiting. Like I said, everything's crossed. I'm just waiting. But that 154-pound division is a problem. Everybody's watching that division. And the fighters in there, they're all watching Jaron Boots Ennis, but nobody's committing. You got to look at the names circling around him. We're going to see what happens if Fundora, depending on what happened with him and Thurman, if somebody going to go after Ennis. Virgil Ortiz, if he can sort things out with De La Hoya and whatever's going on there, if he's going to fight him. Jamel Charlo, who knows where he's at. He's out here hocus pocus in some way and shit. Maybe he'll pull a magic trick and reappear, and then he'll fight him. Earl Spence Jr. is fighting Tim Tszyu. The winner of that, we know that Earl Spence don't want to fight Thurman, but if he can get past Tszyu, maybe he fights Ennis. I tell you what, Tim Tszyu will fight him. But Tim Tszyu's just, he's almost, he still has to keep rebuilding and getting get that momentum going again. But Tim Tszyu would fight him 100%. We all know Tim Tszyu don't give a damn. Aussie, oi. Win, lose, or draw, Tim Tszyu is scrapping. But these are all serious names, all credible threats, all fighters with something to gain, but also something to lose. And that's the key. Against Ennis, the risk often outweighs the reward unless the fight becomes a massive event. So what you get instead of positioning, posturing, and waiting games. You know what I'm saying? That's what it is. Everyone is watching Ennis, man. Everyone acknowledges him, but very few are rushing to get in that ring with him. I really wonder if Eddie Hearn would walk away from Jaron. And I know that's an uncomfortable question for some. But I mean, what if the big fights never materialize? What if Eddie Hearn is just like, look, I can't deliver the fights. I can't pay these guys. It's a lose for me. So I can't afford to come and lose. These guys want multiples of millions that I just can't generate. Because, promoters are in the business of making money. They ain't in the business to lose revenue. If they can't consistently secure high-profile fights for a fighter, it becomes harder to justify the investment. And Boots has got to do more to grow his profile. Crawford said something the other day when I talked to him about fighters need controversy. He didn't say only controversy, but you need to have some controversy. And Jaron has zero controversy. He don't even have a beef, a rift. He doesn't even really talk. All he says is for real, for real, for real, for real. That's it. But I'll tell you this, man. Them high-profile fights, if Hearn can't land it, I'll say this. It doesn't mean he'll immediately cut ties with Ennis. Boots is too talented and too valuable for that. But I think over time, if the situation doesn't improve, the relationship could be strained because Eddie's like, look, I just can't get you to fights. You ain't really making no money. Sorry. Because at the end of the day, promoters need momentum. They need events, headlines, returns on investment. So you know what that means. Come down, Zuffa Boxing. Strong possibility when you're really thinking about this long term. That's the wild card right there. If traditional boxing continues to stall Ennis' progress, a move to a more structured system like Zuffa could become appealing. The idea of guaranteed matchups, clear paths, and less promotional gridlock is attractive for a fighter in Ennis' position. But it also comes with a risk. If Zuffa doesn't immediately deliver elite-level fights, Ennis could end up in another version of the same problem. High talent, limited defining opportunities. But at least over there, I know Turkey Al-Sheikh, he'll put that money up. He'll put that money up. You know what I'm saying? But the big question, will Ennis reach his full potential? Will he ever reach his full potential and have that outstanding resume of just, these highly skilled fighters that he was able to go in and dominate? Because look, let's be real. Jaron Ennis is, if you take Roy Jones Jr. and Terrence Crawford and you merge them, you know what I mean? You get Jaron Ennis. And those are just the facts. And that's what this comes down to. Will Jaron ever reach his full potential? He has the skill. He's got the look. He has the ability to become a superstar. The boxing history is filled with fighters who had all the tools and never got the right opportunities at the right time. So if the fight gets made, if he gets in there with Fundora, the critics, the Zoos, the Ortizes, the everybody, I think he could take over the sport. But if he can't get these big names to get in there with him, he risks becoming one of those what-if stories. And it won't be his fault, and we all know it won't be his fault, just like Demetrius Andrade. There are some people who try to blame Demetrius Andrade, but I'll tell you what, he was trying to do the best thing, man, to try to make fights, and people just wouldn't fight him. And it looks like Jaron's kind of going that way, but at least Eddie Hearn, and this is the time, right, where there's a little bit of money in boxing. Maybe Eddie Hearn can make some things happen, but I'm just telling you, man. Right now, Jaron Ennis is the fighter everyone respects, but no one's eager to fight. He's the dish on the table that looks incredible. Nice, hot plate of fried rice, Philly fried rice. But it comes with consequences if you take a bite, and that's why they're putting. And that's why until someone accepts that risk, steps up and accepts that risk, they're going to keep putting duck sauce all over the Jaron Boots Ennis fight. And those are the jokes that we're going to keep writing because that's what it is. Anyway, y'all keep cool. Shout out Jaron Ennis, man. He deserves big opportunities. The man stay ready, lives in the gym, wants to fight. Eddie Hearn, figure it out. Got to put a little extra 250, 500,000 on top. Go ahead and do it. Y'all keep cool. I'm in the breeze.